What's up, Soul Warriors? Isn't it great to be on a Motivation Monday live with LC and you? This is our first check in of 2021, and I just couldn't resist. I couldn't wait until Winning Wednesday to see all of you, meet with all of you, and just check in with how your 2021 is going so far. Well, one thing I want to tell you is however it's going, don't be disappointed because we are coming off of a very, very heavy time and heavy energy. And it doesn't just go away because we hit January 1st, that we are still going through a lot of big things, a lot of big changes, a lot of big inner questioning, and just we're still working through a lot. You know, the journey of recovery doesn't reach some destination where we go, oh, okay, all the work's over. I'm here now. Awesome. We'll still always have things to work through with other people and our relationships. I mean, we are always a, spiritual human being having this amazing experience. And we're constantly going to work through the things that make us human. And in this video, I want to talk about denial. I want to talk about pride. I want to talk about abundance. And really, what I want to talk about the most is identity. It's our identity with external things, people, circumstances, ideas that many times get us in a place of trouble. But what we know is that all opposition has a seed of opportunity in it. And it really, really, really comes down to making that choice of what will you do with this opposition? Will you find that seed of greatness, or will you stay in the denial of your own greatness? And many times when we identify ourselves with labels, even it can be dangerous for us to identify ourselves with all recovery, because when we do that and that foundation is shaken up, we feel one of two things: lost, or the need to defend. And so what I like to do here on Recovery Soul Food is help you learn how to build your identity internally, to not be too attached to external things, because it's when those things are shaken up that we experience the most opposition or fear, or what we like to call depression or anxiety. So if you all are ready to get into this Motivation Monday with me, I'm ready. So let's get to it. Let's go. Motivation Monday live with the most beautiful people on the internet, in the recovery community, in all communities right here. Let me take a moment to say some good mornings, and then we're going to jump into this. Now, it's very rarely that I know a whole lot about what I'm going to say before I push that live button. So this is just the way that I like to thrive. I like to open myself up to the messages, connect with the energy that is you, to pray and be open to the Holy Spirit as I understand it, to just move through. And I do feel this morning that some of us are still struggling, and we're on that cusp of being disappointed in this new year. But we're going to talk about that and why that is, and how to overcome that and achieve all your greatness this year, this new 2021. For 2022 is going to have its own greatness for you to accomplish. So let me say some good mornings. Good morning, Claire Law, Mary Huffman, Jimmy C., Connie Waters, good morning. Tracy Weber, it's so good to see you. And Bonnie Max, if you're here and I didn't call you out, it's because StreamYard only shows me so many. Oh, Alicia Lee's here. Rachel Dahmer, Noah Gill. What's up, Noah? Lana Rossman. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see all of you. You really, really make my day. You guys make it worth coming here and doing this stuff because I really love you and I want to see you. Joe Potosi's in the house. Man, y'all know Joe Potosi, one of the best authors of this season. I've been so blessed in 2020 to really begin to attract such a, oh, I don't know, just such a deep connection with some amazing soul warriors in the world, making, bringing light to darkness. And, it brings me to this place where I have to understand that as much as we sometimes hate the darkness, it takes the darkness in order for us to recognize the light. Now, that's a hard thing to grasp because we are kind of programmed or moved to only want good, and good. And we fail so many times to recognize the benefit of some of the darker things that we go through in life. I mean, I know this for myself to be true, that had I not experienced knowing I was different very young, then experiencing severe childhood abuse, moving into coping with all of that through substance, and then moving through all of the other destructive habits, my 9-month relapse that, gave me a choice to either let my life go or stand up and do something different. If I wouldn't have gone through that, I don't know that I could be here now. And I've watched our whole collective, human race, go through a very trying 2020 as everything we have built our identities around, our definitions of success, our definitions of happiness, wealthy, wholeness, whatever it is we've built this year, we've watched it get shaken up. And I don't think it's been shaken up to cause us to suffer, but to cause us to go deeper. It's one of the reasons why many times people end up, if you find your recovery solace in the 12-step program, that's amazing. And I know that you'll relate to this. It's why I'm using this as an example. Sometimes it takes folks going through those 12-step processes a few times before they go deeper and deeper under that surface to where they make that alignment and do and kind of finish, if you will, that work within that step. And, many times when we over-identify ourselves with one way of doing things, when we start to question, which is a natural part of evolution, we begin to question anything, we get very confused. And we get in a place where we don't have a solid foundation. And we as human beings, up until this point, haven't understood how to live in that space. Because we talk about faith, but we don't actually know what it is all the time to walk it out. I have realized and learned in this year that true faith really is not knowing my next 5 moves. And we read all of these personal development, self-help, success modules, recovery modules, all of these things, because we're so desperate to have somebody give us the answer, because walking by faith scares us. We also don't know how to be secure within ourselves. We don't trust ourselves, especially when we come into that place from active addiction into new recovery. We don't trust ourselves. We believe that ourselves have what's gotten us into that position. And we're in such a moral conjunction of feeling guilty and regretful and hating ourselves and all of these things, where we fail to realize that it was a coping skill, because the suitcase of our soul had gotten far too full. Now, we all know that you can buy whatever size suitcase you want to in the store. You can still only fill it so much. you will eventually run out of room if you keep trying to stuff things inside of this. And unfortunately, we can't buy extra luggage for our soul. Our soul comes as it is. And for a lot of people, when they begin to experience trauma at a very young age, we're dealing with adult situations with the mind of a child. A child never looks at anyone else's faults. A child always turns that around and says, I must be bad. If this is happening to me, something's wrong with me. I'm bad. And so many other things that we say as children. So we pack that down. We pack it down because we're living in both sides of that fence. We're living in childhood. We're also living in adulthood. And so we start packing, and we pack it down, and we pack it down, and we pack it down until that suitcase has no more room. And now you're in your 20s and you're still moving through this life that is very traumatic because you have built an identity upon trauma. You've built an identity around what your environment has shown you. It's why so many families, there's like this generational curse of poverty and addiction, and even the wealthy have their own dark generational, redos, if you will. And so we get caught in that. We've built an identity around these things, and we have no more room. So all this stuff is continuing to happen in our lives, and we are like raw nerves, and we reach out for substance, or we've already been reaching out. And maybe we haven't been addicted before, but then all of a sudden something happens in that second stage of life, and we become addicted. And now it just adds trouble on top of trouble, and we start building an identity. I'm no good. We keep proving it to ourselves over and over. We listen to people talk about motivation. We see stories of recovery success and life success, and we think that's not available to me. They have something I don't have. And even when we get into recovery, we're tempted to look at people living their dreams and know that we've got these dreams inside of us. But because of our belief systems and the identities that we've built, we believe it's not available to us. I speak to you like this because, I've gone through this myself, because I struggle to sometimes even still overcome those old identities. But 2020 in my life, and I know for so many of yours, shook up everything. But it also reminded me, like an amazing vinaigrette dressing, an amazing dressing that when it sits, it separates. And all the good seasoning goes to the bottom, the oil stays to the top, but it looks comfortable, right? Everything's settled. But when it's shaken up, it becomes an amazing accent to what could be a dull salad, right? And so that's what's happened this year, is we've been shaken up to mix up, shaken up to see areas in our lives that we've got work to do, and great areas of our lives where we've done so much. And maybe we would not have known or seen the results of all the amazing work we've done up until now unless we had the moment and the chance to use it. Now, for me, success in its big bubble equals making opportunities out of every opposition, even if it's an opportunity to do nothing and just rest. Many times we need that. We think if we're not constantly moving forward and going for that next step, that we're going to miss something. That indicates that we still have a belief system and an identity of lack, meaning that we may lose this opportunity, meaning that it will never come again, meaning that we're not worthy. We're not worth it. We're not good enough because we can't keep the pace of those we see right here on social media. Never even really come into that place of thinking that we're seeing 10, 15 seconds, minutes of someone's life, and we're not seeing the other 90% that goes on outside of the camera. And so we build an idea about how some people have the perfect life, and yet mine is still screwed up. I'm not doing it right. Mine's screwed up. You know, we got to learn to cut ourselves some slack. And I believe that comes in learning how to identify only with your divinity. Because each one of us is our divine source of all creation, breathed into us here on earth. And that's right. Every person you meet has that same breath of life breathed into them. Even if they are spending the rest of their life in prison for a heinous crime, can almost guarantee you that that heinous crime came from an identity that they adopted at some place in their lives. Maybe they decided they could never get out of that neighborhood. Maybe they decided they didn't have the education or the skills to go out and get the life that they dreamed of. Or maybe they didn't even know that dreams were available. And I think that for me, 2020 taught me a lot about those things, taught me a lot about the things I had built my identity on. When I watched the recovery crawl the other day, I was, number one, so inspired. Some really beautiful growth happening in so many people. But I also saw so many people that blamed a lot of their issues on Satan and the devil and it being in their mind. And that scared me. I don't want to be someone who sits here and tells you that we do not fight spiritual warfare. We do. But if we blame all of our ways of thought on an external being, then how do we fix those things? When many of those things come up in our lives to show us a habit of thought, a place of identity that we've identified, that we have connected ourselves to something that is not sustainable. And it scared me. And the other thing that scared me is so many people doing so many beautiful things with their lives and yet taking no credit for the work they've done. Because we also have this, and I know this personally because I built it as well. We have our own definitions of humility and humbleness. And yet we don't quite truly understand what that means. It reminds me of something from the movie Harriet that Harriet Tubman may have said or may not have, but either way, it was written in the movie, and it was one of the poignant moments when she says she's being told she can't go back and get her family, that slaves that have escaped to freedom do not go back south and get their family. And he says, I forbid it. And she says, don't tell me what I cannot do. God gave me the vision, but my feet were my own. And I walked and I survived. And I want you to know, you've walked. You've done the work. The choice was always and will always be yours. And you have these beautiful divine visions. But just because you have the vision doesn't mean that you will choose to get up and walk through fear and walk this stuff out. And I don't want anyone to deny themselves the momentum that you have created through that strength within you. You may have been given a divine vision, but your feet and your choices are your own. And we don't get to sit on the couch and be filled with divine vision and the next day get the phone call we've been waiting on for the opportunity that's going to blast us into that dream life. That's addict thinking. What real accomplishing of dreams are is have the vision. Spend 5 minutes a day in the beginning, moving yourself towards that. Be so sure that this has been given to you from a divine creator that it will not go to anyone else and you will not lose it, and that you will do everything that it takes to walk it out. It doesn't need to be like resolutions where we say, okay, January the 1st, I'm fixing to get in here and fix all my problems. And then 2 weeks later, we're in the same spot on the couch, watching the same Netflix and just beating ourselves to bits because we know what to do, but we just can't make ourselves do it. That's one of the greatest lessons ever. And what that lesson is to me is that it takes baby steps to change. And as bad as we want it overnight, it reminds me of the same thing I talked about on the crawl of, the science experiment where they grew palm trees in a lab with no wind. Palm trees need wind to survive, right? And they grew these palm trees, and everybody was astounded that the palm trees grew because science believed they had to have wind. But what they didn't understand is they didn't really research that. The reason a palm tree needs wind is because it is the strongest tree on earth. It is built, it was created for tropical areas, and the wind actually makes that tree stronger. You can build a dream overnight, and you may get lucky and put your intention and your thoughts and all that other stuff, and yep, you can manifest that dream, but will you keep it? Will you be strong enough and rooted in yourself and spiritually connected to your higher power enough to hold on to that? It's not the thing we want the most. It's the feeling that it gives us. So I ask you the same way I have asked myself in 2021, that when I am really wanting something and when I am desiring something, that I'll ask myself, what is it that I'm truly desiring here? What will having this thing, person, situation, whatever, what will it give me that I will feel is fulfilling? And then I will research that as well. Because if we only stay on the surface, yes, we can grow tall and strong, but where will our roots be? And if we keep building our identity and definitions upon success equaling house, car, right job, right partner, blah, 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 whatever. How many steps have I completed? How many days do I have clean? And then when we get to that work, that real life situation that's really real, that tests your root system, and you fall apart, and then you decide, I can't do this. I failed. But I had worked those steps. What happened? Something's wrong with me. That could be us giving up our lives. In that moment, somebody makes a drastic decision because they've identified with only the surface. So I beg of you this year, whatever your avenue to the recovery life that you have envisioned for yourself. And let me tell you, we must have a vision. If you don't have a vision, you do perish. Because when there's no hope, what is there to get up for? It doesn't matter what your vision is. There is no pass or fail on vision. As long as your vision excites you and you can hold a picture of that, then let that help you move forward in every way. But don't be afraid. Don't live in denial. Acknowledge your fear and replace it with the insight of awareness. Ask the deeper questions of that fear. Ask the deeper questions of yourself this year as you begin to identify with this or that. Remember that only substance produces, or habit produces, immediate results. 2020 has showed us that sometimes, as bad as we want things to be over, they're just not going to be. And we have that option to either let ourselves go crazy because we can't change or control this situation, or sit back and let it reveal itself. So in 2021, let this vision define you, but really understand that vision and be sure that you go deeper so that your roots are truly built. I'll give you this one last story from my life before I let you go, because this is an example of all of this in my life today, is that my abuser, the one who started the most heinous abuse in my life, actually passed away this year, just probably a month ago. And while he was sick for a little while, I started feeling this urgency to want to write him a letter of forgiveness, saying that, I mastered this. I let you control my mind and my emotions and my heart for so long, but guess what, man? I mastered this, and you don't control me anymore. And so I started writing this letter, and I wrote it probably 5 times because there were so many different versions. And in writing those letters, each one of those letters, I had to ask myself and check in with my body how much forgiveness I had really accomplished and how much more I had to go. And then immediately I started thinking to myself, I'm an imposter. I thought I had forgiven this man. I mean, what's happening? I'm angry. I feel hurt. I want to, tell him, look here, I won, man. You didn't win, I won. And I had to reach out for some help in that situation. And so I reached out to my own therapist, my own counselor. She reminded me that forgiveness is not a one and done, that there are many levels to forgiveness, and that believing that it is a one-time thing, a one and done situation, is what ultimately brings us confusion, that brings us added pain. Instead of just being accepting of the feelings that I still had, I created suffering through the resistance of it, going, Elsie, you can't feel that. You've already forgiven this man. You can't feel anger or hurt or sadness, or else that means you haven't forgiven. And that means you're an imposter. That means all the work you've done. Resistance is what creates suffering. Acceptance says, wow, I've come a long way. Because in years past, any one of those feelings or even the thought of that man, I couldn't take, and I would immediately pick up. Sometimes it's about breaking those cycles of the I've already accomplished this. It's over. Why would it revisit me? To break the cycles of resistance. Because have you ever known or realized that what we resist persists in our life? If there is a divine message trying to come through and get your attention, which it does emotionally, not mentally, this guy runs all the time. I've had to learn how to not identify myself with my thoughts. But our divine messages come through our emotions, through our heart, through our center, and in our body. And that's what carries the messages to us. And if we resist that feeling, it's going to come back. It's going to keep coming until it gets your attention. And many times your back's against the wall and you got one of two choices to make. Sit down and sit in it, or come up swinging and just accept and love all of who you are with a beautiful vision of the future you that you are currently working towards every day. You are beautiful, limitless human beings with a divine created spirit breath inside of you that opens up a world to you that you have much more power, choice, and control over than you really feel right now. Don't deny your fear or resistance this year. Embrace it. Embrace all of who you are. Realize that in every opposition, there is a seed of opportunity. And it is your choice to focus on that or focus the opposition. You are beautiful and amazing just as you are today. And so rest and identify with that fact and then work towards everything else. Don't be afraid to go deeper. And don't be programmed by mass media to not experience what your body shoots up for you to experience. It's not just people in active addiction that are programmed to alleviate pain right away. It's every single human being that turns on the TV. You can't watch TV for 10 minutes without seeing 14 commercials of how you can change your psoriasis, or you can alleviate the pain of migraine right now, or, it goes on and on and on. You're not different. There's nothing wrong with you. This has been going on our entire lives. You're going to find yourself and many around you starting to ask new questions in this new time. You're going to start questioning those old foundations. You're going to start questioning those old walls and ceilings of these things, these shelters that have been built for you. You're going to start questioning who you really are. And as long as you're questioning that, you're going to grow into the answer. So rest in you this year. I'm so grateful to see every one of you beautiful, shining human beings this year. I look forward to all we're going to do in 2021 together, individually, as a collective human race and a recovery community, because this is the year that you all shine. The world needs what we've got. Hone in on those beautiful abilities that active addiction gave you, that your traumas gave you. Focus more on the gifts this year than the pain of it all. Gifts is, chaos, change, these things, shaky foundations. You know how to go deeper. You know how to love people in all walks of life, everywhere. And if you don't, let that be part of your 2021 lesson. It only takes one human soul to come into your life and change your entire perspective of a lifetime. And it takes that one human connection to change that. Be open to human connection this year. Be open to following your visions. Be open to following those things you feel pulled to and called to. And don't be afraid of failure. My gosh, failure is the setup for success. You can't attain massive success without facing many failures. It's the steps to get to the next level. The failure gives you a place to work from. Don't be afraid of looking crazy. Don't be afraid of any of that, and live your life this year. We got some amazing, amazing stuff coming up on the Recovery Soul Food podcast. I want y'all to get ready because I have got an amazing sober relationship coach, mentor, and expert coming up for us to do a sober relationship series. Now, this thing is going to start with your relationship with you. That's going to be a firm foundation, because before you can have or fix a relationship with anyone else in a healthy way, you got to learn what healthy is to you. So that is coming up this month, and I want y'all to get ready. Connie Lori says homework. If you guys want some homework, then this is amazing. Write down the 5 areas of your life that you want to grow deeper in 2021. If you don't have 5, it's all right, but don't write down more than 5, because more than 5, in all honesty, is not necessarily doable. And if you feel like you have more than 5, then write that down as 1. Why do I see myself in all of these negatives? What is it? So write these down. And that's all I want you to do. All I want you to do is write them down. Once you start opening the questions and changing the questions in your mind and within your being, you're going to start to attract new answers to those things. So write those down. 5 areas of your life that you want to grow in 2021. And I don't mean physical areas. I don't want any weight loss goals, none of that. Let's leave that for a different platform. For this platform, what do you want to love most about yourself this year? What do you want most about your vision? What do you want most in your family life? What does happiness mean to you? What is your definition of success? Write those things down, because when you guys show up to the Sober Relationship Series live with Amy Guerrero, you are going to have so many of those amazing questions answered, and you're going to have an amazing, amazing path kind of lined out, so to speak, and it's going to be some great work. So if you're not afraid to go deeper, and you're not afraid to do that amazing work that brings your stability in, it grows your root system so firm and strong and who you are, then I'll see you. And I will have those dates, because right now they're still a little bit up in the air. Amy is a very busy woman. You guys know I'm pretty busy myself, but we're doing this because I want you guys to love yourself. This is the year of the Love Yourself Revolution. This is the movement. Learn how to love yourself, and everything else comes from that. I'm telling you. So thank y'all so much for joining me this Motivation Monday. I love you all. I will see you for Winning Wednesday this week. Until then, you better know I love you. and make sure that you are doing your best to love yourself. And I will see y'all soon. Have the most amazing, spectacular, motivated Monday of your life because you choose to. I'll see y'all soon. Bye.